Hello and welcome to the Cyber1 YouTube channel. My name is Ray, and in this video, part 1 of Fred's left shoulder, we're going to start assembling his left shoulder. In this map of components put together by Shido for the community, what we have is this part, which is actually this one here. That's the PIV Center version 3. Now, PIV Center version 3 has been a headache for me on the left side. This is my first attempt, and while I was doing the dry fit, putting the screws into here, cracked the plastic on both sides and resulted in it breaking all the way out. This part could potentially be welded up, but it'll never be as strong. So I decided to cut my losses and just reprint the part. To avoid doing that again, this time around I thought I might try these little Nutserts. This is an M3 threaded insert that you can use a soldering iron to heat up and put into plastic and hold there, and that means we have metal threads for our screws to go into. That will hopefully prevent that sort of damage happening again. In the bottom here we have provision for nuts, so I have my nuts here, and again those holes appear to be slightly too small, so I'm going to use a hot soldering iron to melt them into position. I did think about using the nutsert, and I'm just going to put a screw in this so I don't lose it. But they're a bit on the loose side. I could come in from this side and put it in, but I think these will actually be stronger in the long run. And there is going to be a fair bit of torque pushing on this. I haven't got my bearings out yet, but we will put these in. Now, this one here was a like a wood screw screwing in. Doesn't go full depth because otherwise it will interfere with this bolt goes through, and that's our pivot, so that the shoulder will pivot out on that point. So we can't go all the way through, so that's where I'm going to put this one, and that'll allow this plate to sit on here. It is the right way, yeah, and be screwed down using one of these screws. It'll be the odd screw out. As part of test fitting, we check and make sure our screws will go through their appropriate holes. That one's a bit on the tight side, so we will drill that out. It's an M3 screw, so we'll use an M3 3mm drill. I wonder if nylox would be a little bit smaller. Maybe. I think I might put a backing washer in behind that to prevent it digging in on the front side while I turn that in. Nylox can be tight. Just a tip with nylox though, don't use a power tool to do the screws up. You will melt the nylon and then they won't lock like they're supposed to. You're better off spending a little bit of extra time with the hand tool and just take it nice and slow. The advantage of a nylock compared to other types is that a nylock will hold the screw, preventing it from coming loose. Yeah, I think I'll use nylox all round. Well, that might not be enough. Need to do it up small. Don't know if you can see it clearly there, but you can just see the nut through the side is spinning internally. That's a problem. It means I can't do it up or undo it now. It's gotten warm. Okay, I'm not going to be able to get that out of there too easily. Let me just try and grab something to try and press it out. I've had this happen before, and in some cases you can't recover and you have to reprint the part. In other cases you can, so I think I will be using the Nutserts in the end. What I need is to prop that up a bit. I wonder if I'll get a standard size nut in there now. But I might be better off just going with the Nutserts. Doesn't look like it made it all the way in either. No, it didn't. Now I also want to put Nutserts here and for the servo to mount with. I am going to have to use washers behind these. If you use too much force when you're putting these in, they'll actually get stuck on the tip of the soldering iron like it just did for me. Just let the soldering iron heat it up and let it literally fall into the plastic, using the heat of the iron to melt the plastic. These things are readily available on Amazon, eBay and the like. I don't have any affiliate links to share you a link, but if you just do a search on them, you will find them, and they work reasonably well. Stefan at CNC Kitchen actually did a video on them a while back, and that's why I actually ordered some in after watching his videos, and they do seem to hold quite well. He compared those with nuts, and while nuts are slightly stronger because you've got to pull so much more through the plastic, they're not that much stronger than the Nutserts are once properly embedded. Okay, so now we've got that on, let's do a quick test fit. I'm a little bit concerned about here. I may have to clean that up a bit, it's bulged out. That's not too bad. A little bit rough, I'll give it a bit of a file up. That feels better. And that spins better. So it always pays to do a dry fit before you assemble these things. Leave that in there, put this on. And so it's bulged up a little bit. In here, it's hard to see it in the camera, but we'll clean that off. Much better. Okay, these are the screws I was planning on using. These are a little bit shorter, not a great deal. I would like a little bit shorter, but I just don't have any on hand. These ones here would have been the ideal length. They go through with a little bit of room. This will go through a bit deeper. Won't go all the way, but it'll work for here. I do have to use the shorter one for here because otherwise it's just too long. But it is an Allen key and I will have to find that tool. Striking some resistance at the bottom of the hole. So is that one. That one works. If you're having to drill out your hole like this, just be a little bit careful you don't go too far. Full of plastic. That's a bit better. That's not a good sign. Well, this is why it pays to test fit. Can you imagine if I had all of the grease and ball bearings in there first? The hole must have filled up with plastic and then it's ejected out. That's bound up inside the nutsert. There's quite a bit of tension on that. A few brass filings come out of that too. Wait for that to cool down a bit. That's working. You can see the screw didn't go all the way through into here, but I did drill the hole all the way through into this. shaft for a pivot. So that's in. That still turns and still drives. So this is the pot that we'll be using for this, and that slots into here. Now be careful with these pots. It is very easy to turn these ones past their limits, and if you do that you will break them. You only have to turn them past their limits once, and that's it, they're no good anymore. So just be very careful with them. Right, that is engaged. Okay, so I'm not happy with these solder joints here. I will be pulling that apart, putting a new wire on, and putting some heat shrink over it to protect it. But that's our dry test fit. Just clean up this bench a little bit. So now we can pull it apart and assemble this onto this. Not forgetting, once we do the final assembly, to make sure we put the screw in like so that it can be attached to the servo. Nothing worse than having to pull your whole project apart because you forgot to put one screw in beforehand. Okay, so this is our next headache. We need to attach those two together. So there are holes through that line up, but if your screw is too big here, it'll hit on the framework. If it's too long, it'll also hit on the other side of the framework, so they have to be just right. So what I'm planning on using are these ones. These are little Countersunk Phillips self-tapping. They will screw into these, and of course they're a little bit too big for here. So what we'll do is we'll drill those holes out, we'll countersink them so that these will go in and line up with this. So I've got the 3mm drill bit in already. So it will go in, but not much thread pokes out because it's not countersunk in yet. Maybe a little bit further. Okay, 3 more to go. You get the screw in the middle. Check to make sure you've got the right set of holes and that they're all lined up. Okay, so that screw in there is accessed using a very small, very thin screwdriver. Now here's a tip, don't do it all the way up to start with, because we still have to get it into here, and these bits here, these little ridges, need to fit into these grooves. so you do need a little bit of play in order to do that. Now these holes in the servo are just that little bit too big. That's better. So we're going to use these washers to cover the hole. And that still turns. That fits in. We'll take that pot off until after the assembly, and then we can still put that on. So before we go any further with that, let's put some grease in it and some ball bearings. Now I did install a nut in here. I did put one in here, but it appears to have fallen out, so we'll find a replacement. Put that back in, like so. And I've got a nut in here and in here, which I've already had test threaded into there. But obviously you have to pull all those screws out in order to take it in and out of here. So let's get some bearings and some grease. Now these things fit better when you put them up the right way. Greasy fingers makes it hard to turn this, but it does turn. Alright, so in the next video I will probably mount the servo into this carrier. These go on like, well, that goes like so. That goes on there after we mount the servo. And then this one goes on here and holds it in place. There is another part here that has to have oh, that's something I forgot to do. That has to be mounted there. Alright, so that pot gets wired back to here. This one will be wired to here, so I'll mount this on in the next video and wire up both these pots, and then we'll do a little bit of testing to make sure everything is still working and that I've actually got the pots wired the right way round. This part here needs to be mounted onto here. We also need to put in the bearings for it. and secure that down. So we'll do all of that in the next video, and that will hopefully be next week. So until then, if you like these videos, don't forget to click on like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. I have a Discord server where you can ask questions, and there are a lot of people who from different walks of life who actually have quite a bit of information to share, and they can help you out. I also have a Patreon account if you like to support me, as my 3 Patreons do currently. That's Go Lucky, El Morales 45 and Lorenz Berger. Then please consider joining them. There is a link in the description. My Patreons do get these videos a couple of weeks earlier than YouTube does, and they also have direct input to some of the content. And we will see you in the next video.